It's time to talk about all the things that happened in X-Men comics this week. We've got a big #1 issue, Immortal X-Men. Seems like it's going to be the new flagship title for the X-Men comic book universe. We've also got an interview with Adventures in Poor Taste with the entire X-Men Slack chat, as well as an announcement of a classic creator returning to X-Men Legends. We're going to talk about that one at the end. And here with me to talk about that is the Marvel aficionado, the X-Men historian, Doc. How you doing, buddy?
I am okay. It's time for X-Men to die.
This is my issue with Immortal X-Men. Even going back to last week where we got the last issue of X-Des of Wolverine, and it's reminding us of that big moment that was supposed to be the most important moment in the history of X-Men with Professor X and Moira sitting on the thing. They replayed it back in that issue. They replay it back in this issue. That's how it opens up with Mr. Sinister and Adler sitting on a bench, and they're kind of replaying this thing. They need to get over this thing. What Jonathan Hickman and the promise of House of X powers of 10 is never going to be fulfilled, and stop reminding people we're getting this weird watered down stupid version. Of course, we also get a big reveal at the end of Immortal X-Men, which we'll get to here in a few minutes. That also plays right into that. And it's like, let Jonathan Hickman stuff go and try and see if you can salvage this within yourselves, because trying to be Jonathan Hickman, even for Kieron Gillen, isn't going to work.
Kieron Gillen is not Jonathan Hickman. Ben Percy is not Jonathan Hickman. It's like somewhere between trying to do a callback and actually like insulting us at, hey, remember that thing you really liked and that we took away from you? Fuck you. That's what it's feeling like at this point.
Yeah, I thought that was a terrible way to open up this Immortal X-Men #1.
And it didn't serve a purpose.
No, it doesn't. From Kieron Gillen. And I think it's Lucas Wernick is on the art. The art's fine. We're not even going to talk about that because there's too much of the story we have to get to. I will give Kieron Gillen and the X-Men office this. They delivered exactly what they said they were going to do, and it's as boring as you can imagine. It's an entire issue about the Quiet Council, focusing specifically on Mr. Sinister and the way he sees the Quiet Council, and I guess we get a pretty good amount of Destiny and Mystique there as well. It's literally just people talking in mutant politics.
Great. We get to see a bunch of Kieron Gillen talking head comics again. When they finally did get around to some action, it all happened off fucking panel.
If you like your comic books boring and a whole lot of talking and tons of exposition, this might be the comic book for you. If you like Kieron Gillen's version of Mr. Sinister, although he's not quite as sassy as I expected yet, this might be the comic book for you. But if you like X-Men, traditional X-Men, or even like what Jonathan Hickman obviously set up in House of X Powers of 10, which this is essentially promising it's going to build on because that opening scene, I don't think this is a good comic book. I mean, it looks good, but it reads terribly boring. I don't care how Mr. Sinister sees the entire Quiet Council and what their weakness is and who's with him and who gets him and how he's playing this game of 5D chess behind the scenes that nobody even realizes they're in on but him.
It's nothing. There's nothing here except for Mr. Sinister pretending to be the smartest man in the room.
Catty backfighting, and a lot of it's even, just thought bubbles, which I don't have a problem with thought bubbles. I think those things are good for narration and stuff. But when that's all you deliver, it gets pretty boring. It turns out Magneto is leaving the Quiet Council, and people are upset about it. Specifically, it seems like Emma Frost wasn't very happy, so they've got to replace Magneto. They start doing interviews, I guess, and it really comes down to these two candidates. Hope, because she thinks there needs to be a representative of the 5 on the Quiet Council, and they're tired of no representation with taxation, I guess. And then we also have Selene, who, have we seen her during this entire era of X-Men? No. She just shows up and she's supposed to be in there, and then she threatens that she's going to take the portal to Araco away from them or something stupid like that. They're not even using that. All those mutants are on Mars, so who gives a shit? And those are the two candidates, I guess.
The last time we saw Selene was in John Malin's fucking Cable book. That's how long ago it was. Nobody's given a shit about any of the externals since then, except for Tini Howard's Excalibur. And I think just killing them and turning their bones into a gateway, why she would suddenly be important. I mean, okay, yeah, fine. It's a callback to when she was the Necrotia storyline, like 12, 15 years ago. She doesn't matter these days. They haven't rebuilt her as being important enough to end up on the council.
She's mad because they choose Hope. Because they're like, well, you got a point. And then Mr. Sinister has to flip his vote because he realizes he has predicted incorrectly how Destiny's going to vote. And she goes and she takes the portal to Amynth or Krakoa or whatever that stupid portal was and turns it into an enormous centipede.
Yeah, that's what we get.
So that felt like it was pretty much out of nowhere. I was like, oh, she can summon giant insects. That's really cool. And she seems to be butthurt for not getting a position. It didn't seem like she should have been in line for to begin with. But if you say so, Kieron Gillen, and this causes Mr. Sinister, whose plan apparently is crumbling right before him because he's been talking about his plan the whole time and how he's the smartest guy in the room. And he goes back to his super secret lab, and we get the big reveal because we just can't give up Jonathan Hickman's X-Men and what he started with Moira. Moira's not powered anymore. She's not even alive. You know, they killed her, and now she's a cyborg, but that's not the case because he's actually has a bunch of clones of Moira, and apparently we're replaying the same timelines over and over, and anytime he learns something new, he somehow uploads it into some magic box clone that somehow stays in existence as he restarts the timeline, gets back to where he was, and tries to improve whatever failed before. Yeah, I was so fucking turned off by this ending. It was so lame, so stupid. The idea that they're even trying to put into this, that it's even possible, it's beyond MacGuffin and it's beyond Deus Ex Machina. It's so stupid.
All it is Moira as a probability computer, sort of. No, I'm done with this. I'm really done with all this stuff. Can't literally repower her, kill her, and reset this whole fucking timeline and never go to Krakoa.
It's the same stuff over and over. I did not think it's not badly written. Like, there are much worse executed talking comic books than this would, but I'm not going to sit there and go out and recommend, especially with the price tag on this, that you go out and check it out because it portends terrible things for Immortal X-Men. I'm not reading this series anymore. I'm already off the boat. I'll give it 2.5 stars because the art was fine and the execution could have been worse, I guess.
I'll give it 2 stars because Lucas Wernick did better work over on, was that Way of X or whatever?
No, that was
he was on.
He tried Magneto.
Yeah, he did better work on Trial of Magneto. I didn't think he was that great in this issue.
There were some bad faces. I'll give him that. But let's get at. I don't want to talk about Immortal X-Men anymore. That thing sucks. So there was an interview with Adventures in Poor Taste. I was going to do a video on it, but there just wasn't quite enough on there. So you and I will talk about it. And essentially, they get the X-Men Slack together. They're talking to all the members. And there's like some stupid comments like, who are you on the Quiet Council? And for some reason, Jordan White thinks that he's Doug Cypher when really everyone knows that he's Beak. He's completely pointless and just looks weird. Whatever. But I guess the big news in there is that there are unannounced, I think, Tini Howard and is it Vita Ayala comics that are coming down the pike, and our minds are just going to be blown, Doc.
It was almost like, I think everybody in you, there was this really casual, oh yeah, all that thing that we got excited for last year. We realized how bad it flopped, and we are not excited about it this year. That seemed to be the whole point of the first half of this interview, at least.
Yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot in there. I think someone might have talked to Jordan White and said, hey, man, stop giving honest answers about what you do on your day-to-day basis because we're tired of getting crap for it. Obviously, I might play a part in that, but it was a lame-ass interview. We've got bad news so far. Let's end on a high note. We have a classic X-Men creator, a classic comic book writer returning to X-Men Legends in issue number 3, and Nocenti is returning to the X-Men universe for at least one issue. I thought this was great news.
I think this is excellent news too. Like, as much as I hate the fact that X-Men Legends is relaunching with a number 1, because there is absolutely no reason for this series to relaunch with a number 1. Annie Nocenti coming back and doing a direct sequel to the long shot miniseries that her and Art Adams did back in what, like 1980 fucking whatever. Great that we don't get enough of that. It sounds excellent. You know, the only thing that would make it better is if Art was actually doing the art on it. But no, I want to see Annie play in that sandbox a little bit more. She had a big hand in creation of the character, in establishing the whole Mojo World thing, and let's get her back in there.
It was nice to see. She obviously came back for the Daredevil. I think it was Elektra Red. Was it Black, White, and Blood? Whatever those stupid things are. She came back and she did one of the main stories in that anthology. Nice to see Annie Nocenti returning to Marvel Comics, letting her work on some of these cool things that are absolutely being obliterated by these less dead creators. And I appreciate that they're doing this. And hopefully she gets one of those really cool 5-issue miniseries throwback stories that they're given to, Peter David, Chris Claremont, James DeMatteis, and all those great creators like that.
Yeah, you know what? I would love to see. I mean, even Larry Hama's getting it with his Wolverine patch. I would really like to see Annie get a little miniseries out of this. If they can use, even if they just end up using X-Men Legends, like the new purpose of it is to bring back a classic creator, get them kind of started running, familiar with the modern audience, and then springboard to a mini series from that, I would be fine with it. Larry's, as I said, Larry did those 3 issues of X-Men Legends that weren't all that great, but so far his patch is all right. 1 issue in, even if Annie has a little bit of playing catch up and getting herself back in the groove, I would read the shit out of a little long shot miniseries out of this. I would love
a throwback Annie Nocenti Daredevil series or something like that, or X-Men, whatever it is. So I think that was good news. So it's not all bad news in the X-Men universe. Yes, in my opinion, Immortal X-Men was a little below average. If you like Talking Head comics, that's probably more for you than me. The interview on Adventures Fortes, not a whole lot going on there, but we got the return of an actual good creator to the X-Men franchise for at least 1 issue, and that was exciting. If you're a modern day X-Men fan, and you're probably a Jonathan Hickman fan and you were disappointed to see him leave, if you haven't seen this video about what Jordan White, the group editor, had to say about Jonathan Hickman leaving and kind of the aftermath and the fallout and everything that isn't working right now, definitely check this video out and get a little bit more information on why it happened, how it happened, and how Jordan White has really screwed this up big time. And Jonathan Hickman wasn't planning to leave the X-Men office so early, but he had to.